We're in Memphis right now, and I live in Loveland.
Sorry about that. I had to hit the record button. Kathy reminded me.
Oh,
Okay.
no worries.
Okay, Kathy, your turn.
I'm Kathy Marr, and I'm distracted. I live in Loveland.
Maybe.
Okay, Jory.
I'm Jory Kramer, and I live in Fort Collins, which is north of Loveland. So
And Sonia.
I'm Sonia Ketting, and I also live in Fort Collins, pretty close to I-25, and proud town of CSU, Colorado State.
Yay.
Janine, you're the odd man out today. Where do you live?
I'm Janine Reed. I live in Hotchkiss, Colorado, which is on the western slope between Grand Junction and Montrose.
Okay.
We
And
call the western slope is what we call the west side of the Rocky Mountains.
Yes.
I've never been to Colorado except the airport, but I'm from Ohio. And I'm from Cleveland and I live in New York. But yeah, Colorado's a little far away.
okay, Diana, you want to introduce Catherine to everybody?
Yeah, let's brag about her a little bit more. Catherine Perloff, is that how you say your last name?
Yeah.
Okay. She's a summa cum laude graduate of Tufts, but yes, she does have deep Ohio roots. And she has worked, well, currently I got this from LinkedIn. She's the platform reporter for Adweek, and where she covers digital advertising, programmatic, I presume that means ad tech too, creators and social advertising. At first, out of college, maybe she was a stringer for AP, and her degree is in political science and psychology. She worked as an editorial intern for the ASME, and I had to look that up. I think it's the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. Does that sound right?
Magazine editors,
Oh,
which
okay.
more set. But yeah, no, they place you with
Magazine
different
editors.
magazines. Yeah. No engineering.
No engineering. I didn't see any science in your background.
No science.
She was a contributing writer for Inc. magazine, an editorial intern at Forbes, and then a reporter for DebtWire. So she's had a little bit of a varied experience. How's that? So, and we're glad that she agreed to join us today and talk about made for advertising websites, which I don't remember how it came up, but I started looking at it, and I kept getting bogged down into all of the jargon, the advertising jargon. And I thought Catherine could come in and explain to us what's going on, because it sounds like it's relatively new, maybe within the last year and a half, that people have been more concerned about it. And I didn't find anything positive about it. Maybe Catherine can let us know. Okay, Catherine, it's all yours.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here. As when you write things, it's great when people read them, and I'm glad to find chat about this. I cover digital advertising, which basically means how brands and ad agencies spend money on the web, and how do they decide where to put their money and where to put ads. I think that the reason, in terms of kind of made for advertising, especially how you guys might look at it, it's like this is a class of websites that, there's a lot of other things like this that are taking money away from local news and good journalism. Certainly not the only thing, but one nefarious sort of part of the internet. And basically, I mean, you may have heard the term clickbait before, like websites, and also, that just are there just to get you to click. So it's kind of a new version of that kind of idea. I don't know if you're ever on a website and you might see at the bottom articles like 50 ways to lose weight, or like these are all of Taylor Swift's hands. I don't know, something like crazy and silly. And if you click on one of, a lot of times these articles, these like there are firms that kind of pay to get their articles populated in this way, so people will see them. And then they basically, these companies that run made for advertising websites are essentially like not really in the business like most publishers and news sites of writing content and trying to get people to read it and then monetizing it via ads. These websites are more just trying to get people to come to the website, serve them with as many ads as possible, and then just collect the revenue. And a lot of times the content on the websites might be just like all plagiarized, or like just gobbledygook, or just like photos of celebrities, but yeah, plagiarized, not really stuff that it's like there are writers getting paid or photographers getting paid to make this stuff. And the reason why, it was kind of, it's been in the spotlight, at least in the advertising industry recently, is that starting about 25 years ago, the process of advertising changed from calling a publisher and saying, hey, Vogue magazine, I'd like to place an ad, to all of it being done by these technical systems. And that has led to some efficiencies, and it's led to some positive things for brands. But it's ultimately mostly hurt publishers in a lot of ways, because they don't have as much control over the buying process as they used to. And one of the consequences is it's easier for ads to end up in places the brands do not want them to be, including these websites. I mean, and it's very hard because there's these technical systems that brands use to buy ads that have a lot of middlemen in them to really track where your ads go. And I think what galvanized a lot of kind of fervor around this in the advertising industry was, there was a report that came out last year that like 15% of ad spend went to these sites. Now, this was just like in a sample, so it's not like definitive, but like still, this survey was of like a lot of big brands, like, Procter and Gamble type big advertisers. And that's not really like where they want to be. And so there's been a lot of movement in the industry to try to stop this. But I think the other reason why there's been a lot of fervor is that there have been previous industry efforts to try to stop this kind of stuff. And these newest websites are sort of evading other controls that have existed in the past. Like, for example, one way that spammy websites would try to make money is put a lot of ads at the bottom of the page where no one could see them. So then they kind of established a standard called viewability. We're only gonna like buy ads if they're viewable, if they're actually in the view of the reader. But then these websites were like, okay, we'll make lots of viewable ads, but they're still spam. The website is still kind of crappy. So it just kind of speaks to how difficult with our current sort of ecosystem of how ad buying is done, or how easy it is to buy kind of not quality media. Advertisers don't like it, certainly publishers don't like it, but it's sort of part of the system. I know this is like I'm sure I don't know, I try to make this not so jargony, but if you have any questions, that's just sort of my overview of sort of the topic, but yeah.
Could you maybe go over, I don't think I understand the revenue model. How does the money flow? I mean, who's paying for what, and how do you collect? And if you could explain some of that to me, I don't understand how it works.
Yeah, no, it's a little confusing. So basically it's like buyers have these sets of tech companies that they will say buy ads. These tech companies are called DSPs, demand side platforms, and Google runs one, for example. And they will try to find, they are not, and when brands use these platforms, they're not bidding on individual publishers. They're not saying, I want to buy the New York Times, I wanted to buy CNN. They're bidding on users. They're bidding on people's attention. I mean, I'm sure you've heard about like surveillance capitalism and like surveillance yeah, whatever. This is kind of all, this is all linked with that. So they know who you are because of different trackers that advertisers use. And they say, I want to target Kathy, which is actually also my name. So hello, but I spell with a C. But I mean, they won't say Kathy, but they'll say like, I want to target women in Colorado with these interests and like whatever. Or they know that, you know, you looked at shoes on like Clarks.com and then they're trying to, you know, so they're not really I think this is the root problem of how programmatic advertising works is it's targeting based on users and not based on publishers. And then if you accidentally click on one of these like crappy websites, then, you know, the brands will find you because they're looking to target users and they are not, but then they really don't want their ads on these crappy websites because they don't want to look like they're advertising against this sort of, in this sort of sleazy environment. But because the system is all about finding the right people and eyeballs and not the right publishers, it makes it really easy to just end up in lots of random places, basically. Yeah. If that helps a little. It's very, the whole thing is very confusing, but, and it's also kind of counterintuitive because the way that they try to buy your attention kind of works like the stock market. It's like they're always bidding, there are always auctions for people's eyeballs happening, like every minute when people are on the web.
So I'm a
Wow.
pop culture aficionado, and I often and I often do get into these, and it's easy to identify. It's easy. Are they successful?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, you know, it's kind of like there's a thin line between like, because the thing about these made for advertising sites is they're not downright fraud, right? Like there are like websites that like will run like lots of click farms and just have like fake people clicking to get ads. And that's fraud. This isn't fraud. These are like real websites, but they're not really like they kind of run on an arbitrage model where they basically pay to be at the bottom of CNN, so you'll click on them, and then they're hoping that they'll make more money from advertisers to offset their paying for people to get to their site. So I think that like, you know, because there's been a lot of attention on this issue recently, I think that there's been some indication that money going to these sites has decreased, but also like the kind of people who run these sites are kind of like bad actors. I mean, or they're just like kind of like shady businessmen, you know? And so they might find a new way because there's a lot like the system is so complicated and there's so many middlemen, it's kind of easy to evolve. I will say though, there are sites like dailymail.com and, you know, that are kind of like, or like TMZ that are like, you know, they're not the most reputable journalism, but they're just sort of like, they're just tabloids, right? And those sites theoretically should not be in this bucket because they do have real journalists. I mean, you can dispute the practices they use or whatever, but they are like they are legitimate publishers, like versus like this is all like plagiarized content or like maybe even there's AI generated content on the sites. Like they're not really creating content for people to read. But as the industry has tried to root out these crappy websites, there's some legitimate publishers that worry that they're going to get caught in the crosshairs, like a Daily Mail. So it is a complicated problem to handle. And it's like, do these people make money? They do make money, or else they wouldn't do it. Because the whole point of it is, it's all about money. It is not about informing anyone or, you know, sharing an opinion. Or, I mean, at the end of the day, of course, the name is a little silly because I work for a publication, right? We are made for advertising. We would like ad revenue, right? Like all publishers are made for advertising, but I think the moniker comes from, they're not like, there's no actual effort to really engage readers. It's all about just trying to like capture as much attention as possible.
So I read, I think I passed this around. For some reason, I could get into the Wall Street Journal. I don't have a subscription, but I was so excited that I got into the Wall Street Journal with this one article on MFAs that I copied it. But this article said there are a lot of reasons they don't like, companies that do advertise don't like these made for advertising websites. And then I noticed they said that, you know, what's that stuff, the money thing that uses all the Bitcoin, you know how Bitcoin uses, and these websites are not energy efficient. They use a lot of energy. They're bad for the environment.
That's true. That's true, because they're just like, I mean, you know, there is a whole conversation, it's kind of a separate conversation, but like that the internet in general is bad for the environment, and especially websites like this, because they're trying to load as many ads as possible. So like every time like an ad server, I don't fully understand the environmental part of it, because like again, no science, but like you know, it emits carbon every time like an ad server, like you know, every time a brand says like puts an ad on a site, it emits carbon. And if you have a web page with like 30 ads and the brands don't even want to be there in the first place, it's like a total waste of carbon and of money that could be spent on reputable publishers like the Wall Street Journal, like Adweek, whatever. But yeah, at the same time, I mean, this is a different conversation, but the ad industry also like works for Shell. So that's probably more contributing to climate change, that they're doing
Yeah.
greenwashing campaigns, but that's another conversation. But yeah.
I'm wondering, is it fair to say that it's kind of like mutual funds, like these companies that want to advertise just select a package, and then these icky sites are like in the mix, baked in, and not identifiable necessarily without, I mean, maybe will we get to a point where they a group of places where your ads could go, you could look into the detail and see who the publisher is and have an idea if that publisher has a reputation for junk or legitimate, you know, firsthand reporting or.
Right, right. No, I mean, that is a pretty good analogy. I think that, and there are tools you can use inclusion lists, as a brand can use an inclusion list where they're like, I only want to buy from these publishers. Or they could use an exclusion list where they're like, I don't want to buy from these publishers. And the problem with a lot of these sites is they'll like keep getting created like very quickly if they get found out, and it's really easy for them to make it, especially if they're just plagiarizing or using AI generated content. It's not like, you know, like if we wanted to put up a website, you know, as a real publisher, we'd have to have like lots of people writing articles, and that would take time. But yeah, so it's kind of like, but again, it's kind of like the root of all. So there are, and there's options to buy like just a group of reputable publishers. Like there are definitely tools that exist that would allow brands to not do this. And I think there's a lot of blame being pointed as to why does this still happen? You don't have to, because, and part of it is like since this sort of advertising has been possible, which is called programmatic advertising, where it's like you're buying via technology versus and auctioning for attention versus like calling up a publisher and saying like, hey, I'd like to put an ad in Vogue, as I said. Like since that's happened, what the whole point of it was like, oh, you can reach like unlimited people, and like, you know, your reach will be unlimited and it'll be way cheaper than it ever was. And that was always kind of a myth. Like it was always kind of like there really isn't unlimited amounts of like good quality media for cheap amounts of money. Like that doesn't even make sense. But that was sort of like what was sold at the dawn of the internet to advertisers. Like there's going to be 1 million websites and blogs, and you know, you'll be able to target on them and just capture user attention. And I think a lot of advertisers and brands are kind of still hooked on cheap reach, because then they can say to their, you know, chief financial officers at their companies, hey, look, like so many people saw our ads, and like, do these ads really drive business outcomes like sales? Probably not. But like, you know, you can say like this many people saw it, and some brands don't want to dig deeper than that. So there's like a little bit of a, like, I think that the technology has given sort of a cover. It's a lot. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's allowed brands to measure, you know, advertising better, because advertising has always been really hard to like prove that it works, right? But then also some stuff like this is like, is it just giving metrics that are, they call them vanity metrics, that don't really say so much and don't really move the needle, and are just, you know, but then it's like you can still tell that to your boss. So, and then there's also a lot of, and then there are brands that do want to do the right thing, but then there's a lot of ad tech middlemen around in this process that might, you know, not do what the brand wishes or kind of mislead them or put them in something with that they can put some cheaper websites in so that they can make a little more money. There's a lot of shady stuff going on. And there's a lot of blame to be pointed to. And I, my whole job is talking to people about this, and they always say it's not their fault, whoever I talk to, but it's sort of, and like, it's probably not, it's probably systemic, but it's also, yeah, it is probably their fault a little bit.
Are there ad brokers that a company affiliates with, like people that are placing this and you're trusting them? Or is it something that, the person assigned to do it does a deep dive and sets it all up digitally?
There are brokers. It's like these tech companies are kind of like brokerages. They're kind of like, think of them, they kind of work like that. They kind of work like I mean, like the financial system is like a really good analogy because it's sort of like they kind of work like stockbrokers, but they're brokering your attention. So like you're like, so when like, Sonia clicks on a website, a million brands are not a million, but like, 100 brands say are like are bidding to win the right to sell you an ad, to serve you an ad. And then there are brokerages on the brand side that handle it, and there are also brokerages on the publisher side that handle it. And then there's some people in the middle, like also. So there's actually a great, I don't know if you guys ever listened to Ezra Klein's podcast with the New York Times, but he had a guy who wrote a book about how this economy works that my brother listened to it. He's like, oh, is this what you write about? I'm like, yes. And he explained it very clearly. So yeah, I think like that kind of helped, like it's the whole system is sort of like mind-boggling that this happens. And it's actually, and it's kind of a technological achievement that they've been able to do this, but it's also like, what are the consequences for society? We've also just really been talking about what we call the open web, which means like not the walled gardens, which are so it doesn't include Google or Facebook or Amazon, and like all these places also sell ads. And there's a lot less transparency into where those ads go. I mean, there've been controversies, right? Like with YouTube, where the ads maybe end up on like terrorist web videos and that kind of thing. So that we get a lot more transparency in the sort of open web ecosystem to see this, but like Google and Facebook won't really let you have that much visibility into these processes. And instead of multiple companies handling it, it's just them that handled their auctions internally. And also a lot of reason why local, why reputable publishers don't get money is that brands are spending all their money on Google and Facebook, but that's a whole nother problem. So yeah.
Are those the websites, are they in the United States or are they all over the world? These brokers?
Well, the tech companies that facilitate this, a lot of them are based in the United States. I mean, actually, I would say the majority are. Some are based in Israel, some are based in the UK, but like, though, because they're just like, they're tech companies, so they're kind of like where the tech centers are, which is America. But who runs these shady webs? So the brokerages are these tech companies that are reputable companies. They work with big brands, they work with legit publishers. They have their own problems, but they're legit companies. And the who runs though these shady websites, these made for advertising websites, that's not so clear. It's not really clear because usually those are like hidden actors. Maybe they are people in like random countries. I don't want to say any countries random, sorry, but not America. In countries that we don't know, like like not in the Western world, maybe, or maybe they're like, it falls in the sort of gray area of legality, these websites. So the people who run them aren't like out here saying, hey, I run a made for advertising website. They're not doing magazine profiles. Like they're not like, you don't even like, a lot of these websites, like they don't even tell you, like you'd have to do a lot of digging to figure out like what the business is behind it. Like they try to stay pretty hidden into who owns these crappy websites now. But with the brokerages, that's public. You could know, those are legitimate companies. So yeah.
Is it possible that like this is one instance where advertising with Facebook is a good thing, a better thing compared to, I mean, Facebook was the devil who robbed all the advertising from from newspapers and better media, but Facebook is a better option than
I
this.
mean, the thing is that like Facebook, like, you know, all the ads go on the news feed, and advertisers really have no idea where in the news feed they go. So like you could be you could be in a Facebook group of January 6th people. You could be, you really don't know. They don't give you a ton of transparency on that. And I think that in some ways, you know, because it's all like user generated versus like, you know, there's to my knowledge, there aren't companies within, there aren't publishers within Facebook like trying to, you know, like make money. Only Facebook can really make money off of Facebook ads. So there aren't the same like incentives. But at the same time, like, so I guess like in some ways, Facebook, I mean, you might have less risk with Facebook because a lot of it is just like banal and like, you know, but some of it is like you might not want to be next to an ad with like, you know, you might not be with like someone posting a photo of guns, and you know what I mean? Like, and that's so that, and you have no transparency into that. And then also like by buying ads through these brokerages in the open web, you can support reputable publishers. Versus Facebook, you know, Facebook recently like rolled back its initiative on news. They're deprioritizing showing news on Facebook these days. They don't want to be a place where people find news anymore because they realize it's a political headache that they don't want to deal with. But like, how do people get informed in this country? I don't know. So yeah, I think, I mean, also another great strategy if you're a brand is like, you can still call up the New York Times and like buy an ad. Like you can still do that. It's not like that doesn't exist. But a lot of times brands would, now that you have this option to reach so many more people all at once, you know, you kind of want to use those technological tools. So there are, again, these other tech strategies, like only buying from a group of reputable publishers. That there are these strategies that exist, but it's like not all brands are going to take these strategies because it's not the easy button. It takes a little bit more work on their part.
Who does the policing, or is it considered just a self-policing sort of thing? Like the industry is going to do its own calling out of bad actors and that sort of thing?
That's a great question. There are these verification firms that sort of are supposed to play that role, and advertisers pay them to make sure that their ads don't end up on all kinds of bad stuff, like on fraud, on like all on porn, like on all kinds of bad stuff. But they have been routinely called out as kind of missing these things. Now, they just debuted new products for made for advertising websites because they're sort of a new phenomenon, but there's been a lot of like industry outcry, like why haven't they been stopping this sooner? And part of the problem is that these verification firms get paid like per impression. So they get paid per like they get paid whether or not they like just for reviewing that, like, so, like every time they review that someone looked at an ad, they get paid. So the incentives aren't great for them to like call out bad actors because of their business model. And then there are the other kind of police. So those are, and there's some, I think that verification companies can vary in their shadiness, but the two biggest ones people are very skeptical of. They're also publicly traded companies though, for some, you know, and most advertisers still use them, even though they have gotten called out as like maybe not great. Then you know, I've covered some of the research I've covered has been from this firm Adalytics, which is sort of like a one-man fly-by-night operation. And he's actually a biology PhD that decided that he could use his statistics background the best to look into advertising because there's so much fraud that no one's like, that's just on the surface and really easy to like find open source techniques. So there's some like outfits like him and that take a more like forensic approach to it. And then of course there's like people like me who are journalists who are trying to do it too. But I mean, you know, like obviously that's not systematic, but you know, important. But like, yeah, I think that some of there's also one of the big people who's called out this made for advertising problem is this company called Jounce Media that takes a more analytical approach. And they're very into only buying good publishers, and like their whole philosophy is brands are buying way too many websites. You only need to look at a couple of good publishers and just buy from them. I think the counter argument to that is like, if you only buy from like 10 good publishers, are you missing local news? Are you missing new media that could start? But they still, given how like easy it is to buy bad stuff, it's not a terrible model. And they take a more sort of measured approach, but they don't really verify every impression. They just do kind of more consulting type stuff. So there are outfits in the industry, but I feel like the biggest ones, these verification companies, people aren't sure how good a job they do. Yet they are publicly traded companies that make a ton of money doing it. So I don't know.
What do you see the future of MFAs?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of industry attention since there was the initial report, which came out in June 2023. Jounce actually has, which it kind of tracks this stuff, has said that spend has decreased to them. Also, a big thing happening in the industry is third-party cookies, which is what is used to track us around the web. Google says they're going to deprecate them next year, though this is the third time they've delayed that. So we'll see. But so if it's harder to find users on the web, these websites might go away because they're only powered by the fact that no one's really buying them. People are buying users who might be on the sites. But at the same time, there has been like bad actors on the web since the web has been existing. So it's just like, how can they keep devising solutions, and then they're going to keep trying to like find loopholes, which I mean, I think that maybe happens in a lot of industries. But I think it's definitely possible that people, enough momentum comes to like not buy it, and then maybe eventually they just no longer become financially viable. Though once cookies go away, it also will hurt news publishers too, though. So it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, I think progress is possible, but it's definitely like, it just takes a lot of concerted effort, and it's not always you have to like, everyone has to care, and maybe they're going to lose some money and like whatever. So that's sort of, but I think it's possible that things will get better, and I think they have a little bit.
Does the FCC have anything to say about it?
That's a great question. I mean, they've been really like not paying attention to the digital world. Like, I think they really just do TV is my understanding. Cause like, I mean, in my reporting, they don't come up that much. I think the person who's been the regulatory body that's really like done the most about trying to police digital advertising is the FTC. With Lina Khan has been doing a lot of stuff about user privacy and like punishing data brokers, punishing stuff about location data, especially that's a lot of focus on that when Roe v. Wade was repealed, like, can people be tracked, that kind of thing. So, but other countries, especially Europe, have like privacy laws, which would also help regulate a lot of this stuff, and also just try to regulate the big tech companies. And like, we don't so much in America, or when we have efforts that have kind of stalled in Congress. So, it's kind of crazy that we have this whole sort of kind of stock exchange-like system that exists, that happens every day, that is not regulated. Like, we have an SEC that regulates the stock exchange for financial securities. If this is going to happen, shouldn't there be a regulatory body to regulate this? And so far there isn't. I think partially to regulate it would also have to deal with the fact that they're selling attention, which is kind of, no one wants to admit that that's what they're doing. So there's like, the user privacy bit is sort of at odds with the regulation and the anti-competitive bit. But yeah, there could definitely, I mean, there's just not a lot of regulation in America. There's some efforts, but yeah. And they have a lot of lobbying. They pay a lot of money to try to stop it.
Is it different in Europe? Is there more regulation in Europe? Because I know that the internet is more regulated in Europe with, they have rules and we don't seem to have rules here. So
Yeah, it is more regulated in Europe. Now, I don't know if those regulations would really stop this particular phenomenon because it's more about getting permission to track users. Though if these shady websites like don't follow what that law is GDPR, if they don't follow, it's called the General Data Protection Regulation or something. If those websites don't get consent to follow users, which maybe they wouldn't, they'd be less likely to because they're shadier, maybe then they would be fined and then they would go out of existence. But Europe, I don't think is like, they're not necessarily like they're not like regulating this specific problem, but they have more regulations on the entire industry, which probably just encourages less bad actors, I think. But also, I don't know. I mean, the problem is that like Europe only has so much power because all these companies are based in America. So yeah.
Right.
But they definitely have some power and they've been using it. Like the whole cookie deprecation process that Google has to do is being overseen by the UK's Competition Markets Authority, which is like their FTC. So
Okay.
um
Any more questions, you guys?
No, it sounds like that AI is only going to make the matters worse.
yeah, totally, because it's going to be so much easier to create these websites. Like you create 1 million a minute, and then I mean, hopefully if there's enough like crappy stuff, then like it'll help good publishers because the cream will rise to the top again. But like, I don't know, it's not looking good for publishers with AI for sure. And and then they're also getting scraped and then people won't click on them anymore because they'll just see what's in ChatGPT and no one will click on the link to the website. No one will see the ads, the publisher won't get money, bleak stuff, but maybe it won't go better. I don't know. It's not great though.
And you said Ezra Klein had a podcast on this topic. Did
Yeah,
you
let me
about
get a link to that for
that'd be
you guys.
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
This,
And I was curious about the title of the book.
yeah, it's from this guy. Uh, let me, was this it? Was this the guy? Oh, yes, this is called this was the guy. This is the book. I haven't read it, I'll be honest. But I liked him on the podcast. And here is the podcast. Which is like basically just like an hour explaining how how our attention is, the whole point is like he calls it the subprime attention crisis. I don't really know if you can compare this to mortgages, but he is trying to. But like, yeah, he talks all about how our attention is being bought and sold all the time. And he's really smart. Ezra Klein is really smart and I think does a good job interviewing him. And I think it's a good way to just learn about how all this stuff works. Because yeah, it does impact like our whole information economy, unfortunately, and like what people know and don't know, even though the people who control it do not care about whether people are informed, unfortunately. But yeah.
Well, that's a
Thank
lot
you.
of information and my head is spinning.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I know it's a lot to take in. So, and I know I can talk pretty fast. So,
No, it was great. It really was. Do you guys have any more questions for Catherine?
Just some tips on how to get my dad to stop clicking on those things.
Right.
yeah, I mean, right. Clicking on those, I mean, it's not the
Click.
worst thing, but it's not helping anyone. Well, yeah, it was really great to chat with you guys. You guys had some great questions. You're like reporters.
Well,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad. And maybe we'll talk again. I hope you'd be open to that.
Yeah, for
That would
sure.
be
I
great.
mean, I think this stuff is so interesting. So that's why I write about it. And, I like to talk about it because I think it's interesting. So if you have any more questions, happy to chat or any other, yeah. And and happy to help in any way because also I'm a fan of the League of Women Voters. I think you guys do great work. people should vote and know about their governments. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting if you would like, but
I
I
might,
understand you can't.
I
Yeah.
might hop off. It's getting a little late in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was great to meet you all. Thank you so much for your questions, and yeah, have a great rest of your meeting.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was really good. She had a lot of information.
She sure did.
Yeah.
I
Thanks
learned
for
all I
organizing
didn't
that.
know. I realized there was a lot I didn't know.
Mm.
Right. Hi, Kay. You weren't here for the beginning, but yeah,
Yes,
good to see you.
well, it was very interesting. I didn't want to make,
Yeah. Well, I think we should think about if we want, do you think this would interest other league members to ask her back to speak? She
We could
spoke
probably
for
have better
like 35
questions.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can think about it. So let's put that down as we'll think
Mhm.
about it.
Is
And
it
then,
possible that we could educate on what MFAs are through the web pages that we have, you know, kind of a vocabulary? Because you serve some good links that I looked at to learn,
Mhm.
you know, what's going on. And maybe it's a topic for like the task force page or something so that we can
Mhm.
keep tabs
yeah,
on.
well, sometimes, but then, there's two sides to it. I just don't think that people look at the website very often. So you can put stuff up there, but
Mhm.
I think that the newsletters, that they send out every week, it seems like, from the League of Women Voters, that I try to put a news literacy tip in there for people to read something, and I could add those. I could add things about MFAs in that. At
I
some,
agree. I think those are picked up more than the website is.
yeah, really.
Because I think people are, it's coming weekly and then they just hit on it and they're thinking about it at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The links that you provided for this meeting were so interesting. I think a lot of people may be interested in them.
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, well, what we could do is just write a blog or something, because we have a blog. The League of Women Voters of Colorado has a blog. We could write a blog and ask Katina to put a little blurb in the newsletter and with all these links, and then read the blog.
Mhm.
Something like that. It's just that it's hard, it would be difficult to condense what all the information she gave us, so but we can
Maybe
work
the
on
Ezra
that.
Klein podcast is any
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
And if it is, I mean, I have access to Larimer's Facebook. We could connect to the podcast through Facebook. That'd be one thing for sharing, for educating people what's out there. From the things that you serve, Linda, it seemed like it's pretty obvious when you fall into these sites because they're all so stacked up with ads.
Right. I mean, that one thing from the Wall Street Journal, this is the Wall Street Journal. It's the business newspaper, and they hate them. And they're like the MFAs are evil in these articles. So, and you guys you've read even like newspapers or like The Hill. The Hill is the one that I noticed has a lot of these clickbaits at the bottom and says like the 10 best dog breeds. Well, I'm a sucker
Yeah.
for that. I go, what kind of dog should I get next? And then
Mhm.
it takes you forever and you hit the wrong arrow and then you go down another rabbit hole and you never get out.
Mhm.
So it's interesting.
That title, the like 10 best dogs for apartments or whatever it is, that listicles are called, that's kind of a red flag. That captures a lot of people, myself included. I'm always like, oh, well, if I knew the 3 to avoid, like, and
I
then
know,
there you
yeah.
are.
Mhm.
Right.
But those are, people write those headlines on purpose when it's a number, because you feel like you could just get in and quickly learn and get out. And
You never do. You
Yeah.
never.
Never do.
And how is it? I think it's really interesting that the graphic design is so bad and it's so recognizable. It's like a, loud fingerprint on the whole thing. I just think that's very interesting in itself, that they're designed to look bad and unprofessional and it's kind of weird.
AI
Those
might
two
make
all-
that better though.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's think about the best way to put that out, the information out there. Maybe the best way is to just put links to the articles or the Ezra Klein podcast, but we need to listen to that first.
Mhm.
So if a couple of us just listen to it if you feel like, and then get back to us and tell us your opinion. Okay?
It's
Okay.
an hour and 7 minutes. I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
It's not a quickie.
no.
That's a lot of walking you'll get to do that day.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
I'm sure it'll
Um,
be good.
yeah, it probably will be good. Okay, so the next thing, I mean, I don't even have an agenda. I just keep getting all these things keep happening, but if you went to the last Digital Democracy and they had a web there, the thing, it was about pre-bunking, and the woman who spoke showed us well, it was a slideshow, and she talked about, she works mostly with the European Union because they have more regulation in the internet, but they run PSA, to make a long story short, go watch the webinar. But on top of that, I go to their planning meetings sometimes, and the last time I was there, they were talking about, she showed these PSAs that they run in like transit centers and stuff in Europe about how to pre-bunk misinformation. And they're short little PSAs. And I meet with League of Women Voters from Maine and Alaska, and they were considering maybe asking for a grant to create some PSAs and then run them. The problem I see is they want to do this before the election, and that seems like a really short amount of time to create this stuff now. I mean, it's May.
Well, yes and no, but when you consider again people's attention spans, now is probably a really good time to be ramping it up and getting it out there to them. Probably not a good time to be creating it. It should already be created
That's
and be
what I
using, but
thought,
as
yeah.
far as that goes, no, I think it's a good time to
Put them out there, but
be putting them out there.
people-
Yeah, because people will forget if you run
Right.
them too far. And I was looking through that stuff. I actually posted it on Facebook too, and I was just appalled, not appalled, but just kind of laughing because I was like, I learned this in 8th grade speech class. What's a ad hominem attack? I do have to go look that one up though, about every 3 years, because I keep forgetting what that means. But and the slippery slope and the emotional and the straw man and all that, I learned all that in 8th grade. So I'm pretty sure that, I had a very typical public school education. So did everybody else that took a speech class. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. But that's at any rate, people forget these things. And so it's good to be reminding them. And it's kind of like we saw this before with misinformation. Remember, they were talking about inoculating people by going out and finding the misinformation. And I went to a webinar that the National League put on, I think, that was, they were setting up a website that, do you remember that, Kathy? They were gonna have a
Yeah.
website, and if you saw misinformation, you were supposed to get the link and put it on that website, and then they would not link to the misinformation, but they'd put out other posts saying, there has been a rumor that such and such, such and such, here's the truth. And that kind of thing, to try to get people inoculated against it before they actually saw it.
Right, yeah, and I went to the Boulder Valley League of Women Voters had a fundraiser on misinformation, and the man who spoke, Shapiro, I think was his last name. He really promoted the pre-bunking idea. So, I mean, I think that's, from everything I've read and seen, that's where that's where the main focus is to pre-bunk. So, but I
Yeah,
didn't
well-
know what I wanted. Kathy, did you want to say
No,
something?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I certainly see the value in that, because if you can get the message to people that they are being manipulated, people don't
Yeah,
like to be
that's it.
manipulated. And if
Right.
you sensitize them to the fact that there are, all these attempts out there trying to manipulate them, that's a way of, that gets a hook in there, so people might be more attentive. So I think that's what I like about the pre-bunking thing. It sensitizes people to that.
Yeah, I agree. I just, with these PSAs and stuff, like this planning group was talking, first we'd get a grant, and it's League of Women Voters, and I think, you go through all the steps you need to take. It, I don't know if we'd get it done by November even,
So
kind of.
they didn't have PSAs that were already written that
Oh,
could be
no.
taken and adapted
I
to.
don't think so,
Mm.
It'd be up to us to create them, but I'll find out. If I go to the meeting tomorrow, I'll find out and I'll let you guys know. But I think, don't you think that if we have to start from scratch, that's kind of impossible feat for,
No,
Yes, if you had to
I
start from
think we could
scratch.
get it. I think we could do it.
I think we can do it too. I
Yeah.
just started writing an article for a letter to the editor about mis and disinformation. In the League of Women Voters of Uncompahgre Valley, we were trying to put together a program similar to what Larimer County did last year on this subject. And we've got all kinds of links to information about that. And so the goal of the article that I'm trying to write is to promote this to the public in this area. So I don't think it's too late. I don't
Okay.
think it's too late.
okay. So
I mean,
if
we
they-
might
Too
not-
late if we can get it done, but because I think this is a perfect time to do it, but it might, can you use something? I'm just wondering if even just the skeleton of what, did they show enough of what the PSA that were used in Europe, or any idea, kind of, just because, I mean, if you get some of those basic ideas.
Well, I think
Yeah,
that we
the
can
problem
also
with-
use the pre-bunking stuff from Google that I posted on
The
Facebook.
jigsaw stuff, yeah,
Yeah.
because that's part
Um,
of the public domain. There was a problem with, she asked that we not share some of that video, so I don't know if, they want all that stuff. I'll find out tomorrow, and if you're interested, if you think it's worthwhile, and Maine and Alaska say they want to do it, I'll say we're in. I mean, okay.
Which video are you talking about, Linda? Where's it from?
It was
The
the
Boulder?
webinar. It was the web, no, it's Digital Democracy, those ones that the League of Women Voters of Maine and Alaska send out, and
Okay.
okay.
So
And the
that's-
most recent session was called Democracy in a Digital Age. Was
Yeah,
the name of
that's
it.
it, right, yeah. It was
So
really
that-
good.
that I can't remember her name, that speaker, she or the specific organization she worked for, but it's a component of Google.
Yeah, Jigsaw, I think it's called Jigsaw. and
Jigsaw,
then
that's right.
Beth-
Yeah.
That's something. Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll send out, I don't know if there's a link for the webinar up yet or not. I was kind of confused by what I could share and what I couldn't, but since Jigsaw is a area you can just get there, I shared that one. My goodness, I felt safe, but so I'll
And I
find
think
out that information.
Didn't she say, I thought she said to, that she didn't want us to share that one video because it hadn't aired yet. It was about to later that week or something.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's
that
what
was
she
how,
said.
yeah, so it seems like now it's probably fair game, but,
Yeah,
we
they
don't know.
said, they send it out to me and said, do not share this. And then they
Oh.
sent her, remember she was getting married?
yeah,
And she had to go, well, she's on vacation now, so we figure she got married. And she's got the, won't be replying. So I don't know. I'll find out tomorrow. But if we think it's interesting, I'll say we're in. If it
Jory,
works.
what did you have on Facebook? What was that? Is that on the league at
It's
Larimer?
on the Larimer League page.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just scroll down if you don't see it right away.
Okay,
I just posted it the other day though, so it should be
okay,
fairly
thank you.
easy to find.
How
And
much-
when you guys say PSA, what are you meaning by that? And what do you think it would be used for? Because we can send PSAs till the cows come home and the Coloradoans not going to print them. I don't
No,
know
it's not
about your
that.
paper
It's
in
a public
Hotchkiss.
service.
If
Yeah,
they
but
print,
I
but
think what they're referring to, I got was in Europe. They call them public service announcements, and they just run in mass transit, public.
And they're like in the train station and other places like that. And they just run along with other things because I've been there when I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're just
Okay.
like, what, 30 seconds or a minute long, something like that, just.
so
Yeah.
are they are they voiceovers or are they, yeah, so somebody's reading the PSA, it's not words.
No, some of it is they showed a couple of that's actors, doing a scene that
Yeah.
that illustrates something, and then they have animation. One that they didn't want us to share was all animation, and so it's
Yeah, I
there's
don't know if we
lots-
could do anything like that. I should have dug down and seen what you guys were thinking of. And
Well, it doesn't
since,
have to be that.
well,
Yeah.
since we don't have public transit, I guess I'm off the
Yeah.
hook for.
It's a good point, though.
The
Where
street
where
corner
would
with
you
a
put them?
sign. This is
Yeah,
what
you
should
take
do it.
Spear Boulevard and
Yeah.
The best thing would be social media, have little, short video clips or something
well,
on social
and that's
But
what I
maybe
love to
even
do
that
is-
could help if we just had a couple real short things like that. I mean, even all of us could start putting on our Facebook, and our friends will pick it
Yes.
up and do it forward.
Yes.
If it's not too long, it's either something you might say something and then just a little bit to read about it. Those things, I'm happy, and I have plenty of friends who will pass it forward because I'm on
That's
a group
great.
that really loves sending things on Facebook, so.
Because I'm thinking that the idea is we don't try to explain pre-bunking in a 3-minute video. What we try to do is say, wow, that, I'm all of a sudden, I'm seeing two people saying, somebody says to them, look at this article, it's horrible what they're doing. They're killing babies. Look at this. And the other one says, oh, no, wait a minute. Let me ask you a couple questions about this. How do you feel about this? I can tell you're really angry. And it looks like you're getting emotional. And why are you getting emotional? Well, look at this headline. And so there's just a couple of little things like that. And then for more information on how the media is manipulating you, and I would be happy to say it like that, go to LWVCO News Access and Literacy page. And there it is.
I think that's the idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the one thing they showed was and it was hard to tell if there's a lot of words because this was in German, wasn't it? And they had the subtitle or something. Because remember, she couldn't get
Yeah.
the words.
They had one in Polish.
Polish.
Can you I
Or
know
Czech.
she said not to share it, but could you just forward it to me so I could see it?
I can't.
Share it with one person and then self-destruct.
Yeah, I will erase it.
Well, it might
No,
be
I'll send it to
by
Sonia,
tomorrow.
and Sonia will have to.
You can see I'll poke around, see if I can find one on the internet that they've already,
Oh,
it's
that'd be
gone
great.
public.
Yeah, I don't
I'll
want
see if
to.
I can find one.
There
Yeah,
might be one on
great.
that Jigsaw site. I don't know. I didn't look at
Yeah.
it that well.
It would be
Okay.
nice to have a template to just kind of mimic, you
Right.
know, to get it going. And there might be
Yeah,
an
that
AI
one they
animator
showed-
that would do a thing.
Well, the one they showed was a conversation about immigrants, you know, and one
Oh.
guy was saying they were taking all our jobs or something, and then somebody said, well, why did you say that? And that was about it, you know, I mean, it was just a short explanation and it
Mhm.
was. So, okay, well, that's, we'll, I'll find out.
Put that
tomorrow
on my to-do
and
list. You
maybe
guys
we need
send
to
me
look at-
ideas and links and anything you find. And
Linda, I have one maybe final question for you. Does the team have a budget? Doesn't Larimer give us a budget? Kathy, do you know this? Like, I thought teams got, I don't know, 250 on the year or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, teams do, but this is a state task force, so I'm not sure what,
Yeah.
how
But
that,
isn't
how
it
that
both?
works.
Isn't it kind of both?
It is both, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
so. I
Just
don't know.
saying.
well, there's a PR budget that I don't think anybody, well, I don't know as anybody's tapped into it. Do you, Sonia, if there's?
What are
Yeah,
you thinking the expenses for? I'm not quite sure I understand.
Oh, like if we made a thing and then we wanted to push it into, you know, the internet, we wanted to do, push it into
Well, I'll
Facebook.
donate $200 if that's what it takes.
Yeah, I mean,
That'd
that's,
be awesome.
No,
Well,
I'm just saying, if we feel like, I don't want that to hold us back from doing it. That's
Right.
all.
okay.
it could
And I
also be
think
found
for
finding
group-
somebody to produce it, you know, some
the
student,
di-
is like, I'll
okay.
take that challenge and make that.
The digital democracy group, I think they're looking for a grant is what they're looking for so that everybody can take advantage of it. So let me go to the meeting tomorrow before we run off and do this, okay? And I'll let you know. Okay, so then there were two more things. I know we're running over, but Diana was concerned about Senate Bill 24-157, the one that modifies open meetings law for the General Assembly. And I think there may be a ballot title for that. It's been,
Mhm. There has
been
been a
approved.
ballot title.
Right, it's been approved,
right,
Yep, it's been approved.
but they still have to get signature.
right, and that only takes
And they
$1
need
million,
money.
so we'll see.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then there's all sorts of legislation proposed that is, there's a good couple more bills about Cora, the vexatious one, and then there's another one that it really wasn't about open records to begin with. It was about cleaning up the election laws, modification of election laws. But then they tacked in a thing at the bottom that says if you request, right now, if you request a record, what it's like 10 days, right, Janine?
Yeah.
Janine, basically.
Mhm.
And this will prolong it to 20 business days if the clerk and recorder is busy with the election. So that's from 60 days before the election to when the votes are certified, I think is what it was. So it's quite a while. And so we don't really like that, but I think everybody is very aware that the clerks are under the gun with all the requests when they're trying to take care of elections. So we may want to offer sometime that we have new legislation, like maybe next year, and we could suggest stakeholder meetings. So I'm just putting it out there, but
Mhm.
I think this group should be interested in that if we get the opportunity. Okay? Anything else? Diana, did you want to say anything about the?
I discovered a new thing on the Secretary of State's website. If you go to the title board, you can find out all of those proposed initiatives and where they stand. under title boards. And it's interesting. It tells, like, say where 89 stands right now. I think it's the signature verification is where it is. But we're going to have a really long ballot this
I
year.
heard there were going to be 47
Lots of
ballots
crazy
under
things too.
consideration.
Yes.
I'm sure everybody will have read all of them.
Oh, yeah. We'll
Well,
understand
and that's my
every word.
other push that I'm doing, because I just saw a video that gave statistics on how close elections are, because people don't vote all the way down the ballot. They
Yeah.
stop at the presidential. And this was put out by the Democrats, so I can't use it. But guess who the person who is most likely to vote his entire ballot is? An older white
White male.
Republican on top of that. So that's why a lot of our things lose. So we need to encourage people to vote the entire ballot. And I'm trying to encourage the voter services people to put that in their pleas as well, vote your entire ballot. All politics is local.
And isn't that a vote 411 message too?
It is. Vote 411 for all the information. If you don't know who that candidate is, if you don't know what you're voting on when you vote yes on this issue, go to vote 411 and you can have your questions answered easily in a nonpartisan, unbiased way.
Your
So
voice
there
is so soothing. You should be on the radio.
Well, thank you. See, Sonia, somebody likes my voice.
I never said I didn't.
I'm helping Sonia with recording the Observer Corps. Sonia is our Observer Corps coordinator, President, Princess, Empress. And and anyway, we were laughing because my voice sounds like grandma when I read.
But you were the one who said that Tom and I on that league wrap up that I did that's in our training, that's like we needed younger voices, that you loved our voices. However, wouldn't it be nice to have younger voices?
I'm a hypocrite then.
Our voices younger.
I don't remember saying that. I'm so sorry. I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Well, it's that thing. Sonia and I were talking. Sonia's got a bead, and I actually met with Anatoly day before yesterday, and he's going to help me with the podcast. But we met with a Rhodes Scholar at CSU who is specializing in AI and journalism. And he was like, well, I can change your voice. I can make it younger. And I'm like, well, that's great, because I'd love to have younger voices, but unless we are transparent about that and say AI manipulated these voices to sound like they're 60 years younger than what they actually are.
That sounds so great. I'm excited about that.
Well, it's like, well, we can do this. And I feel this way when I use stock photos that have lots of people of color and young people and men. And then they come to our meetings and they're like, well,
One man.
where's all the young Black men? Where are they?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
well,
the
we're
problem with
trying.
AI. It's like you want to represent to diversify, but you haven't represented the core when they show up. Always a problem, but
Yeah, you don't want to manipulate people and lie to them, but
I mean, Photoshop's been around a long time. If somebody made my voice younger, I wouldn't feel like it was the biggest lie I ever, it's all marketing.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? A little bit of hopeful news. If you haven't heard, the board has been talking for quite a while now, several months, about maybe starting an internship program. We've been thinking about different ways we can bring in more younger members or involve young people, at least if they're not even members. And we noticed that some other leagues across the country run these internship programs. And so we're looking at ways we might be able to do that. And nobody's had any time in the last few months to do it, but Jane Hamburger is very interested in doing it once she steps aside from her president role. So I think she might very well spearhead some effort. Like Maine has an active internship program.
what do they do, Kathy?
Well, so the interns would be invited to participate in whatever aspect of league business they'd like, and well, they all run them different programs, but so they could join one of the issues teams and work alongside them. Some leagues pay a small stipend for 6 weeks of work, or they might get community service credit for their time. There's most people have to have that to graduate from high school now. So it's a way of, doing their community service and then, getting involved in the league and getting the hooks in that way. So there's a number of approaches, and I think the board is really interested in it. And Jane Hamburger in particular really wants to do something. I'm not sure that it's going to be exactly an internship program, but some program to engage the youth.
Boy,
She's
we
gonna
need
be
it.
busier than when she was president, because I keep hearing of all these things Jane's gonna do when she's not on the board
Right.
anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I can reach out to her and let her know this, but I looked at CSU before for internships for a different project, not league, for one of my projects. And it pretty much needs to be a paid internship. No one takes an unpaid one very seriously.
Yeah.
However, I know that at the IB school out at Pooter, you have to do community service.
Right.
We could put our name in the hat and, so
Right.
I'll
Right.
pitch that to.
Yeah, but I think we can afford, if we made some money at that Women's Equality Day event last year. What are we doing with that money? We should
Yeah.
be spending it on things like
Yeah.
this. And I think that's what the board thinks. And so anyway,
Yeah.
so it would be like, that's the way that these other leagues do it. It's like, if you're getting community service hours, then you don't get paid, of course. Or you get paid a stipend, and who knows what that is, but they usually run for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something like that, usually over the summer, unless it's community service that you might be doing in conjunction with school. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, are you guys ready to go? Okay. Thanks
Good
for
to see
coming.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Great evening. Very
Emma,
informative.
The open records, open meetings, and the PSAs. So we've got our projects
We
for
do.
them. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Linda, let me ask you something. Who is the person on the league who is it LAC? What's it called? That's from Lamb.
Legislative Action Committee.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Who is that?
Well, there's quite a few people on LAC,
No,
but
but from Larimer, who's part of this committee? Someone, isn't there someone on it? Oh, you're it? Okay. I don't know why I thought there was someone else in our group too that was part of
Oh,
it.
Kathy Marr does, but Kathy does a lot of education legislation too, but she helps with the news access and literacy and the open government.
Okay. And I just didn't know. I'm just wondering because I thought I didn't know what LAC, what does that stand for? Legislative Action?
Legislative Action Committee.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Someone was asking me what that was, and I said, I don't know. I'll check.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And I'll be back to Colorado tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You come
that's what
back that
I'm trying to
soon?
get packed. That's where I was kind of running a little late tonight. It was like I'm trying to get things done because it's already almost 8 here. So I got to go.
Oh, okay.
All
I'll
right.
see you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.